Corey, thank you so much for having me. I told you, when I used to live down the street, I was here all the time, so it's good to be back.
It's good to have you.
I want to talk about when you fell in love with coffee. Was it like most people, kind of maybe around your college years?
Yeah, I guess so. I can blame my father for introducing me to good coffee, at least. My father's side of the family is from Seattle, and we kind of grew up with Pete's Coffee and the original Starbucks in the house.
Right.
When I was much younger, he bought me a home roasting device. So I was roasting green coffee at home in my first apartment when I was 18.
So here's the thing. I can tell the difference between a really bad cup of coffee and a pretty good cup, but
Sure.
Beyond that, I know nothing. So how did you really get good at kind of understanding the nuances of a good coffee bean and what it takes to roast it well?
Well, knowing what's bad is the place to start, I suppose. And you know, it's like anything else. You start making comparisons between cups that you really love and then coffees that you don't like so much. And it can be dependent on the coffee itself, or how it was handled, or how it was brewed, or how old it is. And there's a ton of variables that go into making good coffee. In our case here, we focus on buying high quality coffee that's sustainable and fair trade certified from reliable vendors that do a lot of the footwork to go out and find these great coffees and make relationships with farmers. And we look at coffees that our suppliers bring in and on current harvest crops, and then we look at tasting notes that they post up about the coffees, and then we bring in coffees that we think we might like, and we cup them, which is basically like setting up a whole bunch of coffees to sample, to taste the profiles of those coffees, and then we make a purchasing decision as to how much which coffees we will buy and how much of each.
Tell me how the journey to get to the current state of Conjure Coffee kind of began.
How long do we have? The short story is I first started roasting coffee professionally for Old Crown Coffee Roasters in 1999, right around 99, 2000. And I worked in coffee beforehand as a barista in college and learned more about roasting at Old Crown. It was a great experience with them. Very education forward company, Fort Wayne's first micro roaster, really good quality. And from there on, I went on to work in other coffee shops and also in developing coffee equipment. So that's my formal background, was through Jet Steam and a local company named Mod Bar, which manufactures high-end commercial espresso machines, which we have here. So we started that company, started developing commercial espresso machines, and we sell them all over the world. And then I left the manufacturing operation to start Conjure Coffee and get back into the hands-on with the actual coffee roasting and having cafes.
So at what point, when you are, in your first apartment roasting your own coffee and all that, what point did you decide that you were going to go all in and make this a career?
I think it more like it's like the idea wouldn't go away,
Yeah.
kind of like the thing that kept revisiting. We kept revisiting, my wife and I kept talking about the espresso machine, and it just kind of happened, we had no control.
You mentioned Mod Bar.
Right.
Tell me what Mod Bar is and how it has made its way into Conjure and kind of changed the game.
Yeah, so we're one of America's only handmade espresso machine manufacturers. There's one or two more in Seattle that make machines too. Ours are different though. However, we make machines that are a la carte, kind of specialty machines that are modular. So you can configure your own setup however you would like. Multiple brewing heads, multiple steaming arms, all in whatever locations you'd like to place them, because the machines install basically like beer taps. So we're one of the only companies that make an under-counter espresso machine system like that.
That was the part I thought was really interesting. It's under counter. So what I read was that really allows your baristas to focus on the customer.
Certainly.
Which is a different experience than you have other places. Speaking of other places, Fort Wayne has no shortage of coffee houses.
Sure.
So did you feel like it was a big risk to start up Conjure?
Not particularly. We are already wholesale roasting coffee, so we have over 30 wholesale clients that we sell to, wholesale products to cafes, restaurants, etc. So the business model was to be predominantly wholesale coffee roastery with a cafe element to show what high quality preparation can mean and offer a place for training. That kind of snowballed into a full-fledged cafe that's much busier than we thought it would be. So.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about the small batch process and how that makes a difference to a really good cup of coffee.
Well, I think it's like anything else. You bake a batch of cookies, it's probably going to be better than if you bake 400 cookies at once or something like that. So the analogy of an oven, our coffee roaster is an oven with a rotating drum inside of it that turns the beans around, heats them up to appropriate temperature. We have a computer system that helps us track how we roast the coffee called a profile. That profile can be replicated to ensure that we have the same quality across the board for different types of coffee. We design our profiles to bring out the most we can from the coffee beans without attributing roast characteristics like toastiness or burnt flavors. We don't want any of that in our coffee, so that is one of the processes that makes us unique. But roasting in small batches allows us to have a lot of control, and it just really, in the small batch sense, you get to focus on a much tighter amount of coffee, which makes for better quality, in my opinion. Coffee varies. Even a single farmer, the crop from one year to the next will be so much different, just based on environmental conditions and rainfall and temperatures. Everything like that plays into each year's harvest. So when we get the coffee from, say, a Peruvian farmer, Valentin Huaman, this year it might have tasting notes of like raisin, cocoa, little citrus acidity. Next year it might taste like nougat, So our goal is to develop those relationships, bring in small lots of coffee from sometimes single farmers, work with them over a period of time to continue to develop the coffee's flavors as much as we can by roasting in such a way to really bring out the best part of that coffee.
So can you walk me through the process kind of from bean to cup? How does that all work?
Yeah, sure. So coffee grows on a tree. This is a coffee tree.
It is?
It is. So there's a bunch of different varieties of coffee. You imagine like just branches out. And a lot of those varieties are specific to certain locations. So in Ethiopia, a lot of the coffee trees are heirloom varietals. So they're planted either in fields or kind of wild in forests and with other crops to help them and support them. Coffee cherries ripen once or twice a year, depending on the area. They're picked. The cherry part, the coffee bean is actually a seed. So there's typically 2 seeds together in a coffee cherry. The mucilage is stripped from, the cherry stripped from the seeds. They're washed and processed in various ways. Then they're sorted. They're screened for size in a lot of cases to make sure that you have consistency. For instance, Supremo coffee bean from Colombia is actually a size. It's not a quality. So Excelso is the next size down to a smaller bean. So a lot of people don't know that Supremo actually refers to coffee that doesn't pass through an 18 size screen. So.
Okay, I have to stop you really quickly because you are talking about the cherry, the coffee cherry.
Correct.
I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, and the fruit's really good too, actually. I don't know.
Really? Do people know this?
Most people don't know this.
Okay, so you have the tree, then the cherry, then the seeds. And then at what point do they go from seed to bean?
Right, so even after we roast them, they're technically still seeds. They're just roasted seeds, but everybody refers to them as beans, which is fine. In other cultures, they don't actually refer to them as beans, but we do. So yeah, once the coffee has been processed and then dried, it has to reach a certain level of moisture, below a certain percentage of moisture, and then it's packaged in large burlap sacks, often now with new fancy Grain Pro plastic liners to maintain the flavor during storage, so that you don't get like the flavor of shipping container or something in your coffee. The beans arrive at a warehouse, various parts of the country are imported, and then we buy those coffees from our importers, and then we bring them in. They go into the roasting machine. The sound you just heard was the raw coffee dropping into the drum of the roaster. The seeds are very hard. You wouldn't be able to, you'd have to chew on one for quite a while for it to start breaking up in your mouth. So they're green or yellowish in color. They're very dense. We roast them. Process takes 13 to 15 minutes to reach a certain critical temperature where we're happy with the development of the coffee. And then, believe it or not, it's actually better if the coffee's a few days old than right after you roast it. It has to off-gas. There's CO2 that's released from the coffee after you roast it. And that off-gassing kind of inhibits the flavors from developing in the cup. So at that point, the coffee's stored or bagged and then ground and brewed.
Again, I had no idea so much went into all of this.
Big process.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the roasting and brewing, is there an art to that? You mentioned that there's a computer system, but how do you know how long each seed is going to take and the like?
Well, there's a lot of different philosophies about coffee roasting and different styles of coffee roasting. And if someone's going to roast a coffee dark, they're going to roast it in a different fashion than we would roasting coffee to lighter to medium styles. So in our case, we're trying to get a lot of development time, we call it. There's a certain phase during the roasting process where we elongate the phase to get more critical development, more conversion, more Maillard reaction of sugars starches converting into sugars in the coffee. Makes the coffee sweeter, can add body to the coffee as well. So you can take a complete educational pathway to coffee roasting through various organizations. There's a Roasters Guild of America, the Specialty Coffee Association's a huge resource. There's tons of courses you can take. You can go as deep down the rabbit hole as you'd like.
I don't like. I'm just gonna appreciate the fruits of your labor.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for opening this place, because it has fueled many a day for me. Thanks for contributing to the city, because I don't know that people are aware of all the good work you do.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Absolutely, thanks.
Thanks.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by